Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the beautiful Woodley Hall, Kennebec Valley Community College and the Harold Alphon campus. Very excited to be here this evening. For those who have not attended a Dirigo Lab Speaker Series in the past, Dirigo Lab Speaker Series is a monthly event which showcases founders and leaders as they provide insight on how they overcame challenges, capitalize on their target market, and provide you with actionable insight as to how you can develop your own products and processes. For more information, you can find us online at dirigolabs.org under our Speaker Series tab or on our social media handles as well. I'd like to thank our sponsors for this evening's conversation. This free event is presented by Dirigo Labs and is sponsored by the Harold Alphon Institute for Business Innovation at Thomas College, Valley Beverage, and Bricks Co-working and Innovation Space. In addition, this conversation is being recorded and will be provided for later viewing on our YouTube channel. This evening's conversation, I'm very excited to introduce the founder of the Good Crust, Heather Kerner. In this speaker series, Heather will discuss how the Good Crust is on a mission to revive Maine's grain economy by supporting farmers and millers, stewarding investment in local ingredients, and inclusive workforce development. Without further ado, I'll pass it to you, Heather.
Thank you guys so much for having me. It's really a pleasure to be here and so close to the Good Crust manufacturing facility itself. Thank you guys so much at Dirigo Labs. If those of you who don't know, I am a Dirigo Labs graduate. I don't know what that word is, but alumni of the first cohort, and that was just fantastic. And I really attribute so much of the work done during Dirigo Labs to some exciting news I have to share tonight, which is just how our business is being transformed by relationships with K through 12 school nutrition. It's really changing the face of our business. And that really came about because of Dirigo Labs, in addition to getting in front of many other funders. So thank you, Emily, and everyone. Well, I'm really excited to share our startup story, and I am happy to make this more of a conversation rather than a lecture. So if you have questions or you want to just pop your hand up and you want to ask something, please feel free to interrupt me. The exciting news is that our business is on September 20th, about to turn 3 years old. So we are still a fairly new company. Thank you. But in a very short amount of time, we are racing toward a goal of $1 million in gross sales shortly. So we've had a very rapid process. It's been really great. One of the things we love to talk about is that the Good Crust is a choice that people in our community and even the broader New England community and in institutions, in restaurants, can feel proud of. And I'd like to start this way, and I'll share a little story about why, but raise your hand. How many people know that we have a grist mill in our community, like really close by? Okay, thank you for being honest. And the thing I like to know, in fact, I was talking to a group of about 100 school nutrition workers in this county. And when I said, raise your hand if you know there's a grist mill in this community, maybe 20% raised their hands. And so I think that's a really important place to start, which is just to educate that, well, let me keep going. How many people grew up farming or keeping gardens of your own? How many people, if given the choice, would eat foods that were grown without chemicals? And how many people have a person with a special need in your family? So you may ask, like, how are all of those things related? Well, at the Good Crust, they are all related. We launched a business with two primary objectives in 2020. One was to develop a commercially available frozen pizza dough because I was a mom wanting that, using only the local grains. Full disclosure is that I am identical twin to Amber Lamke, who is the founder and CEO of Maine Grains. And I had been around local grains for about 12 years by 2020, volunteering and participating in the regional kneading conference and a lot of the educational events that was going on around the revitalization of local grains. And at the time, we were only able to find a pizza dough that had about 30% local grains in it. And I wasn't sure why. I was a home baker and I was like, why can't we do this? So around about 2020, I began recipe testing for that. So that was one primary objective of our business. And then the other is that I am an occupational therapist of about 27 years. I've worked in pediatrics my whole career in hospital and outpatient and most recently school settings. And in the schools, because of my connection to Amber, I was using the free grain products that were byproducts from the mill to carry out functional life skills programs for people with special needs. We were making fresh pasta, we were making pizza dough kits and that sort of thing for sale within the district. And one of the tenets of my profession is that we will use hands-on meaningful activities to teach life skills and to forge social connections and purpose for people. And so I really saw a opportunity to connect some dots here with just some regional efforts going on. In terms of who we are, I just gave you a little bio about myself. And I want to, oops, I went the wrong way. Oops. Thank you. And I want to also highlight a couple of my other key teammates. This is Nick Rimza. And Nick was actually, he's much younger than I, and yet he was one of my first instructors in an accelerator program in 2020. I was scheduled to attend Coastal Enterprises Propeller program through the Women's Business Center. And Nick comes with a wealth of information. He's a Colby grad, a wealth of information in tech and sales and finance. And he happens to be a foodie at heart who really loves to get his hands in the dough and has emerged as our chief of sales and marketing for the Good Crust. And he spends at least 4 days a week currently in school nutrition kitchens teaching how to use local grains for their pizza programs. And he's just been an incredible asset for our team. And he is leading our group. Am I doing wrong? Okay. He's leading our group to the Big E in West Springfield, Massachusetts for the next 17 to 20 days. We will be introducing the greater New England community to artisan garlic breads made with the Good Crust. And I also want to introduce you to Sean Duffy. Sean Duffy wandered into the kitchen when we were leasing commercial kitchen space on the campus of Maine Grains, and I had only just started to mix dough. And he was doing a little bit of pizza work there. And he came in, he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm starting a pizza dough company." He said, "Well, I used to make pizza dough for Finelli's when I went to College of the Atlantic." I said, "Oh, great, I could use some help." And he came in. Well, long story short, Sean has over a dozen-year history of commercial artisan cheese production and moved to Central Maine in the middle of the pandemic from Oklahoma. He's a great example of a new Mainer looking for a fresh start, where he just slid right in perfectly to a growing company that could utilize his skill set in writing our food safety plan and our HACCP plans as we built out a new facility. So he is a critical member of the Good Crust team as well and leads all of the operations in the kitchen. Thank you. One of the things, I mean, I talked about the two missions we were hoping to start when I started the Good Crust, but really what I am doing professionally for myself is that I am looking to re-inspire my own work as an occupational therapist and re-engage my personal connection to the meaning of my work through hands-on activity. It just makes sense to me to apply my skills in this way. And so one of the things I think I'm most proud of, and we'll talk about our workforce development arm in a second, but is just, and I articulated this to a chef who actually just joined us, the team this week, is that whether someone comes to our company because they have a known disability or not, the thing I'm most proud of is that we are all on growth trajectories at the same time. Here we have Nick jumping out of tech and into food. We have Sean moving from Oklahoma to Maine. I'm reinventing the way I'm doing my work. And so we're really doing that together. And I think it creates a really infectious energy for the company. I wanted to invite you into the kitchen for a brief moment. This is just about a 2 or 3 minute video, but so you can get a sense of who some of our teammates are and what we're doing.
One of the biggest surprises about starting the Good Crust has been the absolutely consistent feedback from our customers that ours is the best pizza they've ever eaten. The Good Crust is an artisan dough made with 100% Maine grains that we are making commercially available pizza dough. It's a versatile dough that can be used for many other arts and breads. We believe there's wisdom in sourcing our manufacturing. In order to be close to the grist mill where we source all of our ingredients. As a founder of the Good Crust, I am perhaps the most proud of being on board trajectory at the same time that my teammates are. And at the same time, I am really proud that we're helping by that.
And a button that we're here, and like I said, thank you all.
I have been practicing occupational therapy for the last 25 years. That skill set lends itself ideally to the mission of the Good Crust. I set out to use the Good Crust as a platform to work with development. We are inviting and accepting people with community needs all around us. Individuals who might have cerebral palsy, autism, brain injury, and addiction recovery. And in order to ensure their success in the workforce, we provide significant accommodations in order to allow our team to be successful.
Good question. When you did it, no, I think providing the job.
I just have a really bad stutter on the ending where it comes out. I don't really get emotional about it. Stop this. That's worse. Well, I'm not gonna do all of this, you know.
So if it inspires you, I will share some metrics that we're collecting for our business so that in just under 3 years' time, we have created about 18 jobs for a diverse workforce like you have seen. Not everybody full-time, but everyone working to their work endurance and capacity. Every year, we provide 150 hours of minimum of paid workforce training. And that can be anything from a structured paid lunch period where we're doing soft skills training on anything from how to manage your bank account to how to use technology platforms to manage your work calendar if you have multiple jobs, to professional communication or the hidden social rules around time cards and professional etiquette. You know, really, we go all over the place with those topics, but we feel that those trainings are really critical to our successful team. And the success of our employees using the Good Crust as a stepping stone, if you will, to move on to other opportunities. We will have purchased 175,000 pounds of Maine sourced grain purchased by the end of 2024. We now work with over 75 schools to serve local whole grains on their menus. And this is going to single-handedly shift the nature of our business to solve the dilemma of the seasonality of restaurant sales. So it's really going to help our business even out our sales trajectory. From the outset, I have chosen to collect some metrics on the business. It's just the way my brain is wired from special education land. So of course, we will collect metrics on gross sales and net profit, but we will absolutely collect metrics on how much flour we are able to purchase from local farms here in Maine. And related to that, the number of acres of farmland preserved. I had an epiphany this summer. I joined a team from the University of Maine that was on a professional development in agricultural literacy tour. They were touring the McCrum potato factories and Maine Malt House and going to wheat farms. And so we put on a pizza lunch for this group in the middle of a wheat field. And I learned that, you know, it was like rolling potato fields for as far as you could see. It was a 100-acre farm. And we learned from Tristan Noyes, who's the executive director of MGA, and it was his family's farm, that they could expect to harvest about 1,000 pounds of wheat per acre. I was like, oh my gosh, that will be what we will use this year. And that for them, they are at a critical stage of trying to make a decision whether they're going to rotate wheat after potatoes, because potatoes need a rotation crop. And, you know, those conversations are really important because it's like, of course you should. And it was going to mean business risk for him and building out some infrastructure, but to be able to contribute to that and know that you are contributing to keeping farmland open in Maine is just really fantastic. with that, I'm kind of segueing into a growing grain economy in Maine, and I'll speak about that just super quickly, which is just that Maine, over the last 15 years, has had 2 women millers reemerge to relearn the expertise and rebuild the technology to take locally grown grain and mill it into grains for human consumption. It's a really unique thing that is going on here. One of them is Sarah Flewelling from Aroostook County, and one of them is Amber here in Skowhegan. And so what we are seeing here in Maine is a revitalization of a grain economy where typically potatoes would be the most profitable thing that farmers could grow. And then most of the other rotation crops that needed to be grown to improve the soil were going toward animal feed. And that is changing in Maine now because we are able to develop markets for a higher quality grain for human consumption. And out of that work, there exists a nonprofit organization now called the Maine Grain Alliance. And that is sort of the technical assistance and funding arm that helps Maine growers build out infrastructure. We got a mini grant to buy our very first dough divider to start the Good Crust. So there's lots of work going on in that way. Yes, and this, for those of you who didn't know about the grist mill, this just takes you for a second inside the grist mill so you can see what's happening.
Maine Grains is a grist mill in a repurposed county jailhouse that processes organic and locally grown grains into flour, roll those and other grains for bakers, brewers, and chefs throughout the Northeast. We knew when we started Maine Grains that we were solving a problem. We knew that infrastructure was necessary to make food-grade grains available in the Northeast again. But really, never in my wildest dreams did I anticipate the impact that we would have, not only on farmers' lives, but also on the state of Maine and the Northeast. Here at our mill, we specialize in stone milling flour, which is the old-fashioned way of milling. On stone mill, we are pulverizing the kernel in between 2 stones, and all of the nutritious, delicious, essential oils and nerves is distributed throughout the flour in a way that lends this flour its really robust flavor and lively characteristics when you're making bread and beer. So we're utilizing the full height of the 4 stories in this old repurposed jailhouse to gravity feed grain from the top 4th floor through machines that clean, mill, and then ultimately catch the flour on the 1st floor, where our millers will weigh, bag, and pallet the products going out to our customers. Our business is 10 years old this year, and we've seen steady growth in the demand for our products since we opened our doors. And in the early years, it was really the folks who wanted these products long before our mill ever existed. But what's clear to me now is that locally grown, freshly milled, stone-ground flour is entering the mainstream. Having a well-connected local grain economy means that we have a steady supply chain of food. It means a shorter trip from farm to table. And it means that we aren't lacking for supply of food in our region. So it feels more important now than ever. We've become a model here at Maine Grains for how to revive a regional grain economy, one that others around the world are trying to replicate. This project, Build a Mill, has been one of the most difficult things I've ever done in my life. And I would do it all over again. However, I had no idea how hard it would be. The rewards are wonderful, and this mill has meant so much to the community. The employees mean a lot to me, and I'm just so thankful for all of the support that we've received along the way that have made it all possible.
Well, I hope you found that stimulating, just to see a little bit from the inside of the grist mill. It's a very unique scenario to have it positioned in the old Somerset County Jail. For us, the value proposition of the Good Crust is, even if people don't know that all of this is happening, People eat it and they love it. And they say, this tastes like the pizza I had in Italy. And maybe they don't know why, but there really is a flavor profile, a nutrition profile that is different from refined white flour that we are really lucky to have access to here locally in terms of a freshly milled whole grain. So for us, our value proposition is that, and that farmers pledge not to use chemicals, pesticides, or artificial fertilizers in the growing of their crops here in Maine. And one of the big pieces about working with school nutrition is that they are mandated to use whole grain on their menus in certain quantities. But so often other products that they might trial, kids won't eat. They're like, oh, it's like cardboard, I don't like it. But with this product, kids do not even know that it's whole grain. And I believe that to be both the combination of a freshly milled grain and sourdough. It's a very traditional method of artisan bread making that people just respond to. We spent about 2 years ago, we spent a good couple of months traveling around with Maine Course Sodexo, which is the food service provider for the humane systems. And we, thanks to Nick's help with tech, we collected a sample size of input of about 400 university kids who said that 95% of them said that they loved the taste of the Good Crust, 91% preferred it to the previous offerings, and most said they would eat it every day if it were offered. Kids will say, I don't even have to take a bite. I know it's going to be good. You know, it's really great to interface with kids in their settings. So we've talked a little bit, and you saw the video clip about the other part of what we're doing at the Good Crust in terms of workforce development. And I thought I might take just a brief little moment to describe a little bit more about who we're serving. I think I mentioned it before, but we have teammates who might have autism. We have teammates who have had drug-related brain injuries. We have teammates with cerebral palsy, some with nothing known, but they are coming to us for a supported work experience, maybe after having failed experiences at other chain restaurants or something like that. How are we doing this? We are doing this through intense agency collaborations with through the Department of Voc Rehab, where there might be several arms or agencies that help refer individuals to us, like Goodwill Northern New England, Jobs for Maine's Graduates, Skills Inc. Those are all organizations that we are working with, and we receive their case managery folks that are oftentimes called job coaches who might have a client they'd like to refer, will come to us for a tour and see if it's a good fit. And then we might start to initiate a relationship that might last approximately for like a 40-hour work experience, maybe not all in 1 week. It might be 3 hours a week for several weeks. But that is our portal of entry on pack days for the frozen dough. And we found that to be a really good fit. So the day after 2,000 pounds of dough gets made on a production day, it goes for an overnight freeze in the freezer. Pack day is a wonderful opportunity for some repetitive manual skills that can be easily taught or accommodated. We are also newly working with the Harold Alfond Workforce Development Compact. I'm so excited about that, to help fund something that we do that is above and beyond maybe what other companies do. I have hired other occupational therapists to be embedded on the team, to be our own internal job coaches, to keep an eye out for our staff's needs for accommodations or special trainings or special attention. And so the Harold Alfond Compact has helped us to fund that, in addition to helping send some of our teammates to some specialized training around the use of local grains. I mentioned growth metrics that are important to me, but one other one that we'll be studying over the course of our business is one that we became aware of through our work with Goodwill Northern New England. They utilize a metric called a stability calculator, recognizing that a good paying job that is purposeful, steady, and regular has more impacts on people than just a paycheck. You will help to influence people's housing stability, their literacy, their social and community engagement. And so we're using that as a template for figuring out how our company can influence the lives of our team in other ways, like annual community service events that introduce our team, or maybe challenge their confidence to go out in the community and volunteer, where we will all go together to make a wish and fry dough, and there will be nervousness, but there will be new connections that get made because of that. So I think that's the power of doing that really deliberately, is that, even food security, access to clean, drinkable water, those, believe it or not, have been issues for many members of the team, whether they came to us as an apprentice or not. So this work is just really powerful.
How would you say the Crust helps you with your career goals? And the any other benefits that you can think would be there, but that you learn about as a student?
Can't be saying, the Good Crust, we honestly all American. Not first study, we were still in the program, so lost a shot where you can now see them. So, yeah, it's changed a lot. So, the benefits, good information. Data and my resume. Just more work experience. Someone get another job. People don't just look at me like, oh, yeah, I see Kerner won't do that. It's got some experience.
Is in the chat. Sam was our very first apprentice, and he is the adopted son of a very dear friend of mine, adopted into a farming family in Palmyra. Sam has a sister who is college bound, and it was really a difficult moment for him to graduate from a functional life skills program in his high school and not be sure what was going to happen after that. There are a few, but they require very specialized supports, for people like Sam to go on to college. And he just knew that was not going to be his trajectory. Sam has always wanted to be a commercial truck driver since he was like in kindergarten. He grew up with my son. He had like photographic memory for cars and the makes and models and colors of vehicles. That has always been his goal. But fresh out of high school, we took him for an apprenticeship and then hired him. And he needed to learn things like work endurance and how long it would take to drive to get to work and be there on time, and how to fill out a time card and how to start a bank account and start managing that. He has been with us for 3 years, and just in the last 2 weeks was confident enough to leave, go have an interview with DOT. And he got the job, and they are going to continue his education towards his commercial driver's license. He is psyched to be able to drive snowplows, and he will have made it if he gets that job. So Sam's a great example of what we're trying to do here, that we will consider that a success, even though we're so sad that he's leaving. He has been very clear about his career goals, and he's accomplishing them. I wanted to talk briefly about grain again for a second, because it's just an example of how when you start to implement your mission, sometimes these things grow in ways that you didn't even anticipate. Our initial first customers right out of the gate for the Good Crust were very clearly breweries with wood-fired pizza programs, and not just regular old wood-fired pizza programs. They were people baking in Maine wood heat ovens that were manufactured right here in Skowhegan. And that was just kind of a really uncanny coincidence to me. But one of our brewery customers kept saying to me as we were onboarding, he was like, well, how am I supposed to describe this pizza? Am I calling it New York style? Am I calling it, Detroit style? And there was a part of me that was just like, forget all of those. We are making a really deliberate and expensive choice to use only Maine grains. And so several of us got together to collaborate and try to figure that out. Is like, what are we calling this style of pizza? And so myself and Amber and Tristan Noyes of the Maine Grain Alliance, Nate from Flight Deck Pizza, and Scott Varden from Maine Wood Heat got together and said, well, how could we describe the fact that craftsmanship is really going into this product from the very beginning, from the ability to farm the wheat, the ability to mill the wheat, make a specialized product using only local grains, and then make these beautiful copper clad ovens. And out of that, a new pizza style was born, and we call that Maine craft pizza. And now this is a concept that the Maine Office of Tourism has been willing to get behind and contribute some funds for the creation of a website that is self-service. And so if you are a pizzeria that is striving to use local products in your pizza program, you can put yourself on the map so that people can go on a pizza tour of Maine craft pizza. You can also put yourself on the website if you are a grower of seasonal produce that might supply a pizza program. We've talked a little bit about this, but just that the Good Crust turns out is a perfect product for school food service. It exceeds a school nutrition director's per serving goal. Like school nutrition directors are supposed to get 2 ounces of whole grain into a child any meal they're serving a bread product. We are developing products for them that exceed that in individual pizza rolls and little breakfast bialy rolls and that sort of thing. And those are some of the things that we teach when we go in kitchens regularly. And out of this, I don't know if this is applicable or helpful to those of you who are in the cohort now, but through this learning, it's a good example of how we are just continually learning about our customers and providing empathy for what their needs are. And then out of that comes a sales strategy that is a good fit for everybody. And that is really what has happened for us, where direct email and call campaigns that started with like timed outreach become how quickly can we get in to go do a demo? Because we know that when people work with and eat the Good Crust, they become customers. And so, well, that is a very expensive sales strategy for us right now as we're growing, you know, to pay the mileage and pay the person to go teach. It's been really critical to our success. In addition, there is local foods funding that is very unique here in Maine that helps school nutrition with rebates back on their purchasing of anything from local cheese, beef, seafood, or pizza dough. And an example of that is the Farm to Seed to School program and local foods fund. These are examples of some of the things that we're producing just for schools. These are called bialy rounds, and we make them in little 3-ounce quantities. We teach people to use them, again, as pizza rolls or breakfast rolls with fruit in the middle. You can make them into little breads that go with salad or garlic breads and things like that. They're great for school nutrition because they actually are a more productive bake than a single pizza that produces 8 slices, because you can cook 20 of these on a sheet pan. And when you're in kitchens and you see what the dilemma is there, then that helps us develop the product that will let them feed 600 kids much quicker than their traditional pizza format style. The other thing we developed very quickly over the last summer is a pre-sheeted dough round that required the purchase of another piece of equipment. But to solve the labor force issues in all of the kitchens, everyone is asking for a pre-sheeted product, and no one has made a product like this out of a local grain before. So it's really been a good fit. In fact, we're a little scared about the projections right now to provide Cisco with the Southern Maine schools what they need. This is an example of just Nick's sales life is in kitchen demos with school nutrition workers. I like to talk about the fact that I am a homestead gardener myself. That is just what makes sense to me. And it's just such a great fit to use pizza, which is such a favorite food for everyone, to talk about these concepts of eating healthy foods in season. And with kids to strengthen curricula around grow your own pizza, know where your ingredients come from. Can you make one that is made with seasonal ingredients? It's an obvious education point and an example of how just one concept leads to forging more connections. We are giving talks now at the Maine School Nutrition Conferences, the Maine School Garden Networks, the Bread Bakers Guild of America. It's a thing that seems so simple, but that is transformational when you can connect the dots. And this is just a fun ending for you, maybe to appreciate just like how much can happen in a short period of time as we talk about how long this grain economy growth has been happening. This is my firstborn, Sean, and he was probably 4 in this picture. It was maybe the first or second kneading conference there ever was. And if you have ever been to Railroad Square Pizza in Waterville, Stu Silverstein had led this workshop for the littles to make their own pizza. And now my son is 18, but I'll play you this little clip. So just to end with the sentiment I started with that
There was simple shear attack anyone can use to improve their hearing.
Yes, there is.
that the Good Crust is a choice you can feel good about. I feel like is a nice way to end as well, because the Good Crust is creating jobs for youngsters in Maine. It keeps the money right here in our communities in terms of local goods and labor. And it has a direct impact on the team that we are hiring in Canaan. So I thank you very much for coming tonight to hear our story, and I'm totally happy to answer any questions you might have. Yes, Susan.
I didn't know. Your point. You know, when I hear you talk, I'm always so inspired. And it always seems to me like it is just such the perfect ramp of everything was easy and successful. Can you just talk about a time where you had a lot of doubt and how you got through that?
For sure. I think one of the lengthiest ones that lasted probably about a year was, well, I should back up and say, you know, I'm a breadwinner for my family. I had not saved anything to start this business. It's not like I had funders or anything like that. I very much describe this as a lean startup. And so we did what I thought was logical, which was duck into cheap kitchen rental space for the very first year. And it was a struggle to figure out. I knew we were going to have to jump out of there, you know, in a short order of time, but it was a struggle to figure out how to afford a manufacturing facility. And then once one became apparent to me that is right in Canaan, right around the corner from where I live, I had no idea how I was going to fund it. I went to talk to local banks, and I would have to put down 20% down, you know, for them to take the risk on a commercial loan for that sort of thing, which would have cost me easily another year of fundraising, you know. So that was a challenge. So it was this touch and go, like, can we afford it? Are we going to get the building? Are we not going to? That was a hard time because we were overstretched in the space that we were in. We were starting to take on more and more people, and the space was tight, but that worked out. And then there were certainly COVID related dilemmas where once we moved into the facility and we had commercial loan funds to spend on things like big freezer build outs and 3-phase power, because of COVID supply chain issues, that took much longer than should have. So we had customers in waiting, but we had to get those things built out first. Those are very, and it challenges my essential nature, which is frugality. And, you know, I do not like to spend money. So like, this has been the most challenging project for me personally, to take risks, I think. And really put yourself out there with sort of like the faith that, you know what, no one's going to bet on you like you, and or know the ins and outs of your business like you will in terms of how you plan for that. But
Thank you.
yes, for sure.
I think like the classic food startup in this case would send samples to Whole Foods until you got to 600 stores or something like that.
Yeah.
But you're clearly much more interested in the impact for local schools or something similar to that. Or do you think you'll stay there, or is it an eventual goal to get into big supermarkets so you can create more impact for your employees?
That's a great question. I see us as riding this wave of a niche product for a little while right now, because there's so much that we haven't even tapped yet. I mean, when I mentioned that we supply 75 schools, there are something like 175 to serve here in Maine alone. So we know that we have lots of work we can do right here, and that a big leap like Whole Foods for us would then mean another big expensive leap toward kitchen expansion, which we know eventually we will do. But I'm staying still sort of with that frugality mindset that the most profitable thing we can do right now is utilize our existing infrastructure to its max until we have to take the next step. We have been courting Hannafords, and we do have a presence in one Hannafords on the coast. But sometimes those bigger programs are actually just slower to onboard. They take longer. So we've been going right for the faster sales routes.
Thanks.
Yeah, of
Great
course.
detail.
Thank you.
Heather, that was really spectacular, truly inspiring. Maybe a little bit of feedback on that relative to your brand and future sale. Your brand is just so incredibly strong and feels so connectably linked to Maine's brand identity,
Mhm.
which is really invaluable around the world, nationally, versus me. What does that mean to you, and where do you see Good Crust in 5 years outside of Maine?
Yes, that's a great question. Well, there's one project that's already underway that we know is a direction that we're heading. I mean, in the first year of our business, we were asked to ship frozen dough to Washington State. And I was like, are you kidding me? No, we cannot do that. So we have been introduced to the product innovation department at the University of Maine. We've been working with Chef Rob Dumas up at the pilot plant to do a big project, one of which is to study the shelf life so that we can feel confident saying that our dough will definitely last in a freezer for a year, but also to develop a dry mix and to understand our recipe well enough to know, does that need to change much if it's a dry mix? And we will, within the year, have a shippable dry mix where you could enjoy the flavors of Maine's own grain and then make the pizza dough in your kitchen. I know it's going to be great. We already have the recipe. We're at that stage, and now we're working out packaging and when we want to take that leap. So that's super exciting. The other thing I'm having to quell in my team is this enthusiasm for retail events where we go and bake them on site, because we baked garlic and onion bialys for the Common Ground Fair last year for the first time ever, and we won Best in Show. It was really exciting. And now the team is like, buy a food truck. So I don't know. I do in my mind flirt with this idea of, and it'll be another accelerator class perhaps that I need to jump into at this phase, is just understanding franchising better. And you know, we have a very successful micro pizza program out of our facility on Friday nights. We make anywhere between 30 and 50 pizzas in 4 hours. And I could see that being anywhere in Maine, like a very reproducible model where you don't have to have the labor stresses of a full-on restaurant, but you can continue to provide an avenue for Maine source grains and people to enjoy it. So I see that sort of in maybe 5 years.
I'll keep going. Maine schools, are they all getting their food from like US Foods or Performance, just like the rest of the commercial kitchens are?
They're all different, and this is an industry I'm learning a lot about, and I'm not an expert, but I mean, you might see wealthier universities having more sovereignty over their food sourcing. You know, universities like Colby or Bowdoin not having to source you know, standard issue Cisco products or something like that.
We go like a study in high school though.
Yeah. This is a really complicated answer that I'm still learning about, which is just that there are subsidized programs through USDA that help schools receive the cheapest food possible, really, in order to feed the masses. It's one way that we can provide free and reduced or free breakfast pizza and that sort of thing. However, it's sometimes is not always the best quality food. So school nutrition directors, I have so much respect for them because They are business people who have to plug into these very complex programs to figure out how to feed the kids on a set budget. They are procurement specialists who then, when they know that there's a farm to seed to school local foods fund that they could access, are spending their time driving around to the coast of Maine, to the fisheries and to the beef farm and to the yogurt maker and everything. Truly, that it's often like men and women, mostly women, in their 50 to 60-year-old range. It's amazing. And they really are working hard on behalf of kids. But it's almost like sometimes these local foods funds help them splurge on a higher quality local ingredient. And then they utilize the USDA products that are much more affordable to try to stretch that, or to be the toppings, or to be the fruit that goes on there. So I see that as being a way that Maine is out in front in terms of providing rebates to schools, but still a way we could do better. Because a company like mine is regularly having this conversation, like, why is it more expensive? It's more expensive because that is what it costs to grow and make. That's all. And it's not subsidized. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that we are pricing to be niche or premium. It's just what it costs. So that's my experience with that.
Really like the story that,
Thank you.
that's really cool. Do you have a plan to, or is the idea really to kind of give them a place to start and then to build them up so they can go somewhere else? Or are you looking for ways to kind of build them up within your company?
Both. Yeah, definitely both. We do survey all of our teammates upon entry, you know, what their career goals, and if there are things we can help them achieve while they're with us. Some come to us with very clear goals, like, I want to be a dancer, or I want to have my own dance studio, but for now I need to build up my endurance or my balance or my fine motor strength. But for others, we talk about the PAC team being a portal of entry. And then when we learn that someone has special computer skills and we're looking to capture all the manufacturing trainings on video, we might move that person sort of with lateral job duties and be like, okay, let's get you involved in that part of the business then. So I do see those things happening. And we do have a very deliberate approach where we want everyone who joins our team to know that they have room for upward mobility. And so we didn't set out with creating special management roles necessarily, but have done that already for some of our apprentices to create a shipping and receiving manager, which we know we'll need eventually anyway, but that was a specific skill set that someone who came to us had, and we want to be able to promote that relatively quickly. Yeah.
Sticking with workforce, Heather, based on your background, I assume you probably building your pipeline, workforce strategies, MDOL, rehab. A lot of these wonderful programs are often very hard to navigate for startups, even already designed for mid or larger size companies. You're probably an expert already, a practitioner. What surprised you about applicant or programs for startup?
There are some really clear ones. What surprised me was how quickly word spreads. And people were like, I want you to be my client. I did not. The first year I thought, we'll take Sam. He was known to me through family. And we ended up taking 3. And then we ended up hiring all of them. And then the next year we took another 3, you know, so there's just such a need for that. That was a surprise, like how quickly people would be on the doorstep for that program. And this climate among the case managers who get hired by local agencies saying, this is my region. I don't want anyone else to know about the Good Crust because I don't want to have to compete like for other people's clients. I was like, oh my gosh, the need is so big there. One of the biggest challenges, quite frankly, is transportation. Some individuals, if they have a disability, qualify for like KB cap transportation services to go to medical appointments and other specific things, but not work. And so our I'll give you an example. Our 32-year-old with cerebral palsy is likely never going to be a driver, but he still has parents of working age that have to be at their jobs, and he does not know how to get to work aside from like calling a cab. There are starting to be some like mileage reimbursement programs, but for some of our candidates, they are not always cognitively able to manage that independently and require support to even manage that. So transportation is really an issue to be solved. Because we have willing workers that some of which may even, you know, start to flirt with the idea of working more full-time instead of relying on Medicaid benefits if they could get to work.
My daughter's a case manager. She says that all the time.
Yes.
That transportation piece is hard, and there are no programs to help to work with homeless youth.
Yes.
There are no programs. United Way has something that will help you repair a vehicle.
Yes.
When you are in a rural area, there is no Uber.
Yes.
There is no way to get to work. It's really hard. It's
Yes.
this whole pool of people.
Very much. And I will say Sam being an example, but he was not alone. 2 others, so a total of 3 of our teammates also would require specially designed instruction in driver's ed. You know, so not every driver's ed program is perfect for every individual. They just might need to receive that instruction auditorily or do the testing differently or something like that too.
Any other questions for Heather before we wrap it up? All right, well, thank you, Heather, for your presentation.
My pleasure.
Very excited to get some pizza.
Yes.
This conversation has been recorded and will be available for later viewing on our YouTube channel. Very excited to give a huge shout out to our sponsors, the Harold Alpine Institute for Business Innovation at Thomas College, Valley Beverage, and Bricks Co-working and Innovation Space. Next month, we will be hosting another speaker series on Thursday, October 14th at the Paul J. Sheff Art Center. This will be in one of the theaters and we'll be highlighting Churchill and Bingo Mountain Coffee. So for more information, you can find it on our socials. And stay tuned. Have a great rest of your week.